perspective, right? Basically, that is the segment who use or consume the milk. And then based on that, and then you focus on the secondary data is also good. Company reports, academic journals, official websites to see or compare the two brands. But I think there's something missing. You talk about official website, company report, academic journals, but I don't think that you can find such a comparison between the two brands. But maybe other sources.
Yes, I understand because we have researched that before, and we want to see that how Vietnamese take the proportion in the dairy brand and also the texture mutual. Because both brands are very, I think that is a big dairy brand in Vietnam, and so that we can completely compare together. And maybe when we take a comparison between both of them, because at first we want to use the primary secondary data to compare directly. However, they have to maybe not have their company report, so we have to base on the newspaper or other things.
And you will see that there's a dimensions. We talk about the validity and reliability. Yeah?
Yes.
When we try, what we want to know is the perception of the consumers and where to find the perceptions consumers or feedback. In the official websites of the True Milk or Media Milk, can you find such information? No.
Sorry, I
You didn't get it. So what you want to know is the perception of or the feedback from the consumers to or for Media Milk or they have True Milk, right?
No, because in case we don't have the data of the actual in the official website, so we will use some of the company report official website and the background information to take the proportions of.
And then it would just think about example VGU, right? You want to see the perception on the satisfaction of the customer. Here in this case, the students of VGU. And then the question is, can you find or do you think that you can find the satisfaction or the feedback from the students from the official website of VGU? Not? And then where? Before talking about the survey, secondary data, where to find or to detect if the students are happy with the universities or the program. Online website, for example.
I can take it. I don't think it's because I can review the.
Exactly. Yeah, and that is something missing here, right? Just think in a logic way. What you want to see is, so to say, the comparison between the two brands, they have Milk and Media Milk. And then if you come up with their official websites, they talk about their vision, mission, and some positive perspective of the companies. But we don't know what the customers really talk about them. And then think about other code, we call it the social listening. Yeah? That is something that is applicable for your project. Yeah. Here's a concept that you may not find, so to say, a slide, but actually that is also secondary data. What is social listening? Is there anyone who has heard that? So, no, that's new, right? Social listening is basically you are trying to. We talk about observation, right? We talk about the market intelligence. Remember that from the first day. Yeah. And what is market intelligence? Again, for those who participated in the last week, we have the market research, which will be dealing with the research project, right? And market intelligence is a continuous observation of the market to see what is going on. And within the market intelligence, we have a term of social listening. That means we try to listen or to observe what the customers, the competitors, and other audience are talking about specific brand, product, or service, right? And for example, when we are talking about the perceptions or the feedback from the customers, if we go to the company reports, academic journals, official websites, you cannot find that but probably you try to use, we call it the keyword or the tag, right? Sometimes we use this one, right? Huh? And then try to use this keyword and try to find on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on other forum to see what people is talking about middle meal, what they have to do. And then if you collect around 100, 1000, for example, feedback and so on, and then you can analyze how many of them are positive, how many of them are negative. And then you can also, okay, what is the positive point of that review regarding, so to say, the test, regarding the service, regarding the packaging, regarding the after sales service and so on. And what is bad about the review of Vinamilk? We talk about the price, maybe the price higher, maybe the price lower, and how many of them talk about that. And basically, you can more or less answer, package your research questions from the secondary data. And yeah, the way to collect it, just go to so to say the social media, the forums, and so on. With this keyword, and then you can collect it. Right, makes sense for you. And I would say basically that can answer your questions more than 80 or 90%. And then come up to the primary data, yeah, because of your limitation of work and time. And then you just pick up, so to say, a very framed population at the BGQ student. But that is fine because you have another perspective from a specific group, totally fine for that, right? And then you can compare and supplement. For example, if you talk about vitamin from the Facebook or Instagram and you recognize there are some patterns, okay? Most of the customers are happy with the, so to say, vitamin, but there's maybe something that they're still missing. And then based on the survey, then you can, so to say, really confirm the data or the results from the secondary data. And then we got the whole picture of your research data. So that's right. That's something that I can add. And then try to revise it. And if you have the questionnaire, then design the questionnaire, think about how to deal with the data analysis data. And then you have some questions, and then you can ask now. I think you have.
Maybe I will ask later because this is
Okay, good, but clear, right, for the next steps. Thank you. Do you have the group members with you now?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, because I haven't received the full list of all the students, and then I need to reorganize it a bit, maybe after all the presentations, so then do that.
Good morning, everyone. So I would like to introduce the topic that we chose. We can use the case study of Israel, which is a foreign beverage topic that is trying to penetrate in Southeast Asia and combined with their quantitative research. So to have Israel. And you may know, Israel is a brand, it's a Chinese food beverage, and it also is in the Hong Kong exchange and limited clearing, where it has advanced beverage shares and also financial database. And Israel has brands that is Israel and another small department on Lucky Cup, where it's set a coffee, and Israel also has a reasonable price to penetrate the Southern Asia market, And second, the research problem. So we see that Mr. expanded the just one store in 2018 to 4,800 stores in Southeast Asia, and we still don't make sure how this rapid store expansion can turn user into actual successful case. So why it matters? Because it's really a big decision related to investment and also for the managers of Israel to observe the trends in person. If it doesn't work efficiently, so they can modify the strategy. Our research objectives has these four objectives. So first one, we want to determine the quantity relationship between the number of the stores and also the gross merchandise volume when we analyze the case study through our chosen model. And the second objective is we will evaluate the market penetration and compare them between Israel in each country in Southeast Asia. And then we also want to clarify the key driver of this successful expansion. And furthermore, I believe our research will suggest more recommendation for further investigation for the researchers. And I would emphasize that there are also some minor gaps, like he also has limited quantitative research on the foreign food and beverage, and also lack of empirical studies that can actually measure the store scale and also the GMP performance, and also insufficient understanding of localized market efficiency and also the store this penetration level. And that we also designed a research question like this. And you can see on the first column, that is the overall research question, and it will divide it into three other sub-research questions. So
GMP, what is GMP?
Gross merchandise volume. This overall research question will be divided into three other sub-research questions. First on research question one, is there a linear relationship between regional storehouse and GMV output? It's been like if there is an additional store, is GMV output better or worse? And the research question two, how does market penetration and store efficiency differ across countries? This question is like we want to know in which country the mistake can operate the best. And research question three, does footprint expansion velocity directly link subsequent GMV growth? Besides that, we also had other hypotheses that can match each research question. So for the research question one, hypothesis will be stock has a positive relationship with GMV, and research question two, performance per store will differ between established markets that have existed in long term and newer markets. And hypothesis three, for the last research question, that is GMV growth lags behind store count growth.
Now moving on to the research methodology. I use secondary data from public financial disclosures specifically the visa prospectus and HKEX filings from February 2025. First, I source the data, and second, I build country level and time series data sets covering store networks, GMV, and GDP variables. And the last one, for the core model, we deploy linear regression to analyze the association between store count and GMV. And I will pivot the two time series analysis if country level GMV is not only disclosed. And the next one is the target country store count. Here is the store count across our target countries as of 30th September 2024. As we see that Indonesia and Vietnam together make up over 90% of Mitsui total networks in Southeast Asia. So this is really a regional duopoly, and Indonesia has 667 stores. Vietnam has 1,304 stores, then Malaysia, Thailand, the Philippines, Cambodia, and that's what is Singapore. Singapore followed with so much smaller counts. And here is some inclusion notes. The prospectus also mentions Laos with 22 stores, but we exclude Laos unless the project scope requires 8 target mixed markets instead of 7. And here's the market potential and category dynamics. The Southeast Asian freshly made beverage sector is projected to grow from $30.1 billion to $49.5 billion by 2028. A CAGR about 19.8%. It's important. This growth figure is about freshly made tea and ice cream stores, not ready to drink bottled products. So I keep this distinction consistent in my modeling. And as a quick combination snapshot, Mitsui was founded in 1997 and listed on the nkqa in March 2025 on the stock code in 2097. It has 2 brands, Mitsui for tea and ice cream, over 90% of revenue, and Lucky Cup for coffee, both around $1 per product. And part of this Southeast Asia expansion is driven by the domestic market in China, gradually becoming saturating.
After this consideration, we had limitations in our research. So first on, we just choose only 7 countries to analyze. So maybe our research is still very less reliable. And the second limitation is like we mainly based on the prospectus data, and this data will have some restricted data like GMV, so it will need further verification. And the last one, because we just figure out the trends from secondary data from 2021 to 2024. So it will not be the long-term trends for this case. So we also will, because this is why conduct in a very short time, so we suggest all the next steps, like we will integrate the population and income data from the INF database to increase the accuracy of the model, and also apply time series so that we can observe the Mitsui in more long-term in future. And this is the end of our questions. Do you have any questions?
Okay, thank you very much. First, from the audience, have you listened and got the ideas from the group? And that's the thing to learn from. And you should know what they are doing, and maybe the feedback and the discussion is the main thing or the most valuable thing that you can get from. Right, let's, I would say thank you very much for I consider it's also quite hard working of your group, right? You discuss and you try to propose something that look very fancy, right? Regarding the data analysis, the time series, so to say, that very economic perspective, not a business perspective, right? You look at the big picture of the company rather than some kind of consumer behavior or satisfaction. And this relates to the three questions that you have. Yeah. And then what is the relationship between the expansion scale? In other words, the number of stores and the business performance, and you measure by the cross merchandise value, right, of the mid trade in Southeast Asia. And then what is the typical relationship between them? And what is the trend or the prognosis for that relationship?
So I think if for example I have a more F&B business in Vietnam, I want to expand the business foreign. So what I think the question I want to ensure is can I send my product to the foreign? So I think if I open more and more retail store in the foreign, so I think the sale in the foreign will increase. But it's really true. So I want to test this through the case in Israel when they have a lot of retail in the foreign. And I want through the research, I want to learn their lesson from the Israel. Why they can create a lot of store in the foreign, because they use the franchise. And when I go to Israel, I saw their markets. The way to expand the franchise, they have the policies that they have to graduate. They can support to that, and they can they can support the machine or the capital to the graduates to open the new franchise in Vietnam. So I just I want to research the way they can open for retail and yes.
That means so from the big picture, from the whole business to the specific case related to students or fresh graduates. So Midway has a policy to support or to encourage young talent to, so to say, start a business with Midway by provide, so to say, the capital support and the machines, the training and standardized process.
I just think this is just one of the policy they increase the retail. I think there's been for
okay, so quick feedback. That is exactly what we are curious. No questions. Basically, we don't need that because that's obvious, right? Suppose that if you're a business and the question is, if I open more stores, can I increase the revenue? The answer is obvious, yes. Right? And then why should we just try to answer these questions? You just use Gemini and then you can get the answer. We don't need that, right? And it's not worth doing research. If you join the first section, which question should worth a research, a market research, and this question is not, because it is already there, right? You can see that, for example, in 2021, they have 10 stores, and the revenues or the cross merchandise value should be 10 billion. And if they have 20 store or 100 store, and then the GMV should be significantly increased accordingly. That should be obvious, right? And we don't need to market or to do the research for that. And probably similarly for the research questions 2 and 3, maybe interesting regarding how they penetrate into other countries. And you stated already something, there are some policies that encourage fresh graduate young talents to do the business with them. And then if I were you, or if I listen to the case, and then I'm curious about the detailed policies and the perceptions from the fresh graduates or the young talents, what do you think, or what they think about joining the ministry? Is it attractive enough for them to join? Or maybe you can ask those who already run the franchising business with them what they are thinking. That is more interesting for the audience rather than just pretty abstract questions that you can find from text research. From my perspective,
So it means we can improve our research question.
you can change the research questions.
Yes.
Because from my perspective, those research questions are obvious and it makes less sense for you to practice. Right? Of course, you can put it in a manner that is something that you can easily done with Gemini. I honestly would say, if you want to collect the data, you don't need to do it by yourself, but you can ask Gemini, the pro version, and then it can provide you an next result, which can answer the 3 questions. But what we may be more interesting in would be, so to say, as you describe the case, what the fresh or the young talents in Vietnam are thinking about the offer. If it is enough motivated for them to join and to start, and if not, why? If yes, why? Yeah, that is more interesting. And then you stick with so that you don't need to focus on that would be a big picture if you compare with other countries. But for specific the Vietnam market, and just to pick up of one perspective and then you have some insight to share. And you got what I mean?
I don't know, but it's kind of struggle because we have still 1 week to the finals, and if we want to research what that person charge the franchise nowadays, I think it's hard for that person. And second, that's you take the data and quality net of so
Because if we're talking, that's always the challenge, the trade-off. Yeah, I wouldn't say that you have to do everything, but at least from the mindset of a researcher, and you should decide, okay, I definitely interested in that, and I want to solve the question, and then you have to design your research, and then based on the limitation, that is what you are able to do, right? And then you can, if you cannot, and then try to do the research, try to look at, or maybe there's some other research, newspapers or articles. They talk already about the trade industry, and then try to utilize them. And then you can design a survey with those young talents or fresh graduates that you can approach, and then try to ask them. And let's see how far or how much data that you can collect. Well, from my perspective, the pre-question is okay, but you can do it with the next research. You don't need to spend more than 4 hours, a couple of hours to get it. And that's not worth the effort of 3 or 4 members to try to that. If you and then you can also open the Gemini, go to the mode of thinking, and then try to create the next research with your questions, and then they will deliver you effectively better than what you are doing. And then if you follow the instructions, then this one is okay. But I would say you should shorten it in secondary research with the Gemini, and then you have a better version, right? And then try to think about something that you can create originally from your team, right? Try to interview members, try to survey, so to say, the fresh talents, or maybe regional communities, and then you have an angle of. It will not be fully reliable or valid for being said to use that, but at least you have some original data to work on. Yeah. Okay. And if this is the case, and then come up with the next slides, with the slides, and to see if something that you can keep. Next slide, please. Yeah. We don't need that because that is basically we'll be dealing with the next result. You can use it, but they extend a bit more. Next. Yeah, that's something that you can use Gemini to solve it. Have you ever been working with AI with Gemini to create the next result?
But we try to build the structure first, and actually I'm still hoping most of that so interest the draft one.
You can keep it, but I would say make it as the background for your story. Then you have to detect in-depth interview or survey or other social listening or few words to really go to the case and get insight. That is something that's more valuable than just this. Yeah. Good, clear, right?
Yes.
And good luck to your group. Try to revise it a bit and then you can go to the few work. Thank you. Good. And then next group, please.
Nhưng mà cái thứ này cái phản ứng này dễ cái giờ nào người ta đặt rảnh với lại tôi thấy nhân viên đó của họ nhiệt tình đó. Dạ nhân viên cũng không được. Trên LinkedIn cũng được. Tại vì nó sẽ có hai đối tượng graduate với lại graduated gần ra trường ấy, ra trường thì trên LinkedIn cũng có mấy người đã ra trường đó chứ đâu, nhưng mà cái trường hợp anh đặt sở này riêng các cái là tôi không đúng tự nhưng mà cái
So, because this was only the revision version of the last time already mentioned, therefore I would go briefly into the first section because these are actually quite the same. The only thing that I have different from the last time was to add a solo entrepreneurship. I would want to find the trends and the market trends for the solo entrepreneurships. For the market research proposal and process, the last time in the step 3, I have already said that for a data collection, it's a document experiment and a testing that for this course, I have simplified it into not a conventional software. And this software that only that is a hypothesis scenario where artificial intelligence is actually doing the job, and I would want to test the readiness of the users in the trust inside the solo entrepreneurship of the whole things. Then for the data analysis, I have mostly kept the